Hey, good morning, Liz. So this morning, the first thing that I'm doing after I finish the newsletter is I start to look at Andy and Brandon. What are their assignments? Where do they stand with everything today? So let me take a look. First of all, this is Brandon's smart sheet, and I'm going to grab, he finished this high-tech story, and he finished this story also. I don't know. Okay, so these aren't completed submitted. He finished this story, but I also want him to go to it tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So I don't want to take it away from him. I don't want to put it down under completed. And I mark this as preview written. Please attend Wednesday a.m. Okay, so, all right, so let's see, and I'll mark this. Okay, so what we've got is we've got him going to this thing on Wednesday morning. He's already written a preview story, so we're good. Might just move it down a little bit. He never did finish the Trouble on Christmas Tree Lane story. So I'm assuming that that's almost done. I'll have to check with him on that right now. I'll send him an email asking for status and when it'll be done. Okay, so to do that, I highlight this line, right-click, send, go to his email, ask him for the status on this. I can never spell. You'll see that. I'm just really bad at that. In photo will be completed today. Okay. Okay, so now we go take a look at what do we give Brandon. He needs a total of 3. So he needs to finish this one, which should be mostly done. And I need to give him, I think I need to give him 3 more because this Trouble in Christmas Tree Lane should just about be done. But let me go see what else we got going on for him. Where can I find what else we have planned for him? Well, 2 places. Most important right now is we got an email about a news event occurring today. Let's take a look and see what that's all about. I got it like late last night. Okay, so this is about an alligator at the Pasadena Humane Society that is being moved today. They just tell us about it Monday night, like 8 o'clock at night. Okay, when? Between 10 a.m. 2 p.m. Where? Why? Staff and volunteers saying their goodbyes. Okay, fine. 10 and 2 is way too long. So I ask, when is the time? When is the best time for a good photo op? When is Tina being caged and loaded up? Okay. Go down here. Tomorrow will just be staff and farmers. I figured you want to get some shots of her in a story. Filed before the transport later in the week. Transportation of wild animals can be tricky, blah, 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 blah. I guess I need to ask him, James, since our photog can only be there for 30, 40 minutes tops, how do we know when he should arrive? Okay, so this is a problem because how do we know when this is going to happen? But let me put it let me put onto Brandon's schedule, and we're going to have to figure out how to do this. Needed that anyway. We may have to call Jamie Holman and ask her, how do we do this? So this goes over under notes so that he has it on his smart sheet. make this a video assignment. Trick here. And then is to call. We'll let Brandon do it. I trust him. He's responsible. Is to call James Chisholm. No, I'd say Jamie Holman. At the Pasadena Humane Society to find out what time you can get good images / video of people saying goodbye to this here alligator. Do you complete Okay, so there we go. So that's number 2 for him for today. Let's see what now. Where else do I go to look for something? Okay. The next best place is over to the editorial schedule. So what I did is I had gone and pulled out everything I thought Brandon should write about off of the master editorial schedule and made a subschedule called Brandon editorial schedule. So let me take a look at where I am on this. So he wrote the preview event on this already. He wrote the preview event. Then tomorrow we want him to go to this. So I'm going to actually, before I forget, put this on his schedule for tomorrow. So this is that didn't turn out very well, did it? Okay, let me try this again. Okay, so I put please cover this in person on a Wednesday. Well, I'm going to make it clear to him. No preview story. I don't want him to accidentally think he needs to write something. Okay, so I've got that on there so I don't forget it and he knows about it. Now I hit the blue save button. All right, let's go back to this editorial calendar. Okay, so hit refresh. He wrote the preview story about that already. All right, so he's good. So what I do is I go through these events and ask him to write preview stories. And a preview story is really, he's going to call the main stakeholders and explore the subject in the preview story, which can be kind of interesting. So the next thing is for Friday, Cole Hershkowitz, an interesting guy. So here's a chance for Brandon to interview this Cole and talk about the subject. And it gives Pasadena Now a chance to discuss weighty topics, fascinating stories with societal implications. But they're centered on an event that's happening in Pasadena. So the connection to this major topic is this is an important guy who's talking about it in Pasadena. But it gives readers the chance to look at the issues and to think about the issues of big, weighty, important topics affecting society and business. And this is our connection to the real world and to big issues, is how it affects Pasadena. So this might be, I'm going to consider right now giving him, asking him to highlight this story and talk to this man, Cole Hershkowitz, do an interview on the phone and do a good preview story and then tell people. And you can learn more by going to this event. So let's see, he's got that on his schedule. We also need him to do this, which is really important because it gives him a chance to talk to these local kids. That's quite a name. Okay. So he's got a lot of preview stories he can write. A lot of preview stories. All right. So I would say let's do that. Let's have him start. Today's only Tuesday. So let's have him work on this one to get a whole. He has to hunt down and find this Cole guy, and then he has to interview him on the topic. So let me find that, and we'll put it over here. This will be his second new assignment for today. Okay, so if these aren't on one line, when you put them into the cell boxes, they mess up really bad. So copy that as a one-liner over to here. So now, so he's got a couple of things to be covering on Friday and on other days throughout the week, which means these are going to be separate stories when he actually goes. So we're going to ask him to please preview this. He's going to have to hunt this guy down. Please preview this. Okay, so there we go. So now we've gotten him, we're asking him to finish Christmas Tree Lane, figure out, go to photograph and write this alligator thing, and then find Cole Horshko and talk about this. And he's already written this one. Okay, cool. All right. So you know what? That's probably enough for him today. Finishing Christmas Tree Lane and doing these two, I think that's probably enough. I don't want his head to blow up. So, because I want this Trouble on Christmas Tree Lane to be a big enough story, I'm going to ask him, please turn in as early in the day as possible. Because I want to make this a big, meaty, good story. It needs to be a feature in the morning, and because we don't have anything else. So consequently, I want him to turn it in early. If he waits and turns it in at 5 o'clock and it has to be rewritten, we've got a problem. These other smaller, cute stories, the alligator story, you know, video clip, a couple of pictures, a couple of personal memories from people who work there, shouldn't be that hard. I'm not so worried about that story. I am worried he won't get a hold of Cole Hershkowitz. So if he doesn't get a hold of Cole Hershkowitz, he needs to start calling really, really early in the morning to find out how to get a hold of Cole Hershkowitz and when to set up an interview. So we may need a substitute for this one, for the Hershkowitz story, because he may not be able to get a hold of the guy today and do the interview and transcribe it and do the story. So I think we may need to put one more onto his list. So I'm going to go back over, and I know exactly the next one that I want him to preview. It's going to be this Perry's joint, because this involves hunting down these students and finding out who they are and interviewing them and the whole thing. So he needs to at least have that so he can start on it. So let's put this here. And it's on Saturday, so he won't go to it. He doesn't do anything in the weekends. I mean, Brandon is strictly an 8 to 5 guy. Strictly. I'm not knocking him. In a newspaper, it's kind of tough for us as assignment editors to have people who won't work, you know, nights and weekends, because that's when things happen. But still, not going to complain. He's a good kid. So, so I figured I'm going to have to cover this. But anyway, he needs to be able to hunt down these kids and get interviews. So I'm going to have to work on that. We may need to help him. We may need, what's his name, David Cross. This is the kind of thing that David Cross can do, is find people, because David Cross is pretty good at that. But we have to give him a limited amount of time. Hey, David, I want you to take 30 minutes and find these 3 people. Find someone in charge of this event who will put us in touch with these kids. But if you don't give him a 30-minute limit, then David Cross will do it the entire day and nothing else. But let's put this on here, and I'm going to say, do a preview story on this and try to interview the kids. And that's probably going to take him a couple days to put together, actually. Important thing is find out who was the organizer and ask them to help you interview the 3 kids. Now, what I did before was someone, I can't remember who it was, helped me do this, and I went up to Perry's Joint a couple days before the event, and I actually interviewed the kids separately before the event. So the best way to do this probably would be to see if Brandon can go up to Perry's Joint and meet the kids. It's really close to the high school where the kids go to school. But the question is, who's the organizer of this event? Now, I saw an article on our enemy, the Pasadena Independent, yesterday. So I'm going to add that to the research here because it has information in it. Let's see. This is one of our enemies, but it looks like a newspaper, but it's really not. The articles are written very, very badly, and they don't really waste any time on facts. So this story here, this might have this has actually got a little background on some of the kids too. So let's put this in here and give it to him. This is the kind of story where, as managing editor, if you don't assist it and push it along, it's going to die. I can tell you, because it's going to be hard enough to find these 3 kids and find out who the organizer is. It's going to be just hard enough that Brandon will flounder and not move the story forward, and David Cross might get confused and never figure out how to get a hold of the kids. I mean, personally, I would pick up the phone, call Perry's Joint, which is a coffee shop in Northwest Pasadena, and say, hey, this event you're having for the kids at Muir, what's the name of the parent or teacher that I should talk to? So I can find out. I want to get an interview with the 3 kids. Who's in charge of this thing? Who do I talk to? I just put this in the wrong place, didn't I? I'm just looking. I put this in the wrong one. Oops. I need to get rid of this. Should have been in Perry's Joint. Okay. There we go. But you see, I'm just saying, this is the kind of thing that it's going to die if we don't help them, because it's just hard enough that it may be a problem. And in fact, Brandon may need trouble finding Cole Hershkowitz, but he's pretty good. I think he can probably find him because he has a contact on this. He knows the name of the organizer of the lecture, and the lecture series gives the phone number for the lecturers. So I think Brandon will be okay on that one. This Perry's Joint one, he won't be. So anyway, I'm going to put a big separating line in here so he doesn't think I'm asking him to do 5 stories today. Go over here, pour in like a 10. Okay. So this is what we've got for him today. Finish Christmas Tree Lane as soon as possible. Do this alligator story photo or video clip. Preview Cole Hershkowitz. Any trouble with that, jump into this one. Now he's going to have to do this Perry's Joint tomorrow if he doesn't do it today. So we're going to have to find those 3 kids and set up the interview. Anyway, actually it'd be better to try to set up the interview today. That is to say, it would almost be better if you could coordinate finding out who those kids are and who the parent is in charge of this, so the parent could, or teacher, can set up an interview of those 3 kids as soon as possible, because I'm not sure that Brandon can do it. Okay, well, we'll talk. So this is what I've got for Brandon for today. This will keep him busy, and how I did it was in an incoming press release about the alligator, and then going to the editorial calendar that I'd worked on earlier and just picking off preview stories for him to work on.